Let me first introduce myself. I'm Onurcan Çakır. I'm living in Urla, Barbaros village for 8 years. And before that, I was in Istanbul. So I have always lived in Istanbul, and I've graduated from Istanbul Technical University. I did my master's also there, and I also visited Vienna Technical University for 1 year for my master degree studies. I made my experiments there about architectural acoustics. The main topic that I'm working on is architectural acoustics, and I also finished my PhD in İTE in Izmir, again about architectural acoustics. So then I'm working in İzmir University of Economics, Ekonomi Üniversitesi, as a part-time lecturer doctor, and I have also my office, a home office, and I'm usually making small-scale buildings like houses, and I'm going to show some of them to you also today. So this is the Barbaros village where I'm living in. It's next to the university that I was working in, the Izmir Institute of Technology, İTE. And just to give you a short information about the village, there are some old stone buildings which still are being used. Most of them, as also Ahmet Hoca said, are covered with some mortar. The stone surfaces of the walls are covered with mortar, and they are painted with white color in order to deal with the water insulation problems of the stone material, because again, as Ahmet Hoca said, similar to Bodrum, also Urla and this region, Barbaros region, is we have volcanic stones, so they are not very good to use in order to make water insulation. So they have to be covered, or you have to solve the wall details, the section details, layers according to that. So as you can see, there are lots of white and stone buildings in this village. So I'm going to talk about some remarkable construction methods in this village. For example, there are usually 1 or 2 stories in these buildings, and the first, the ground level, is used for animals. Not today, but it was used to be used for animals, for sheep usually. And the ceiling is low because of that. Just to fit in the animals, it was enough. And their heat, the heat of the animals would heat the upper floor, because the heat transmission is possible through the wooden floor to upstairs, and the lower floor was covered with stone usually, because it's just helps that the ground is not wet. So again, as Ahmet Hoca has shown you, there are some earthen roofs with the details that he has explained. The details are almost the same. You have to put some cargo first, and then there are some algae which you get from the sea. They use it also here, similar to Bodrum. And then you have the Geren toprağı, which is mainly holding the water because of the clay that it has inside. So then you have to squeeze it with the low stone. It's called low taşı, which is a cylinder, basically. So there are some old buildings which were made with these techniques, but today probably not anymore. But the shape of ceilings, the roofs are, some of them are terraced roofs, which shows us that we can also build similar shapes when we are building our new homes. Another interesting material, the use of trees as structural elements. They cut the tree and they just put it there as a column. They don't change its shape. It's structurally not very stable, but it's really interesting to use such a natural element directly. For example, in this house, you can see it. So there was an old olive oil factory, but it's not used anymore, but it was used before 4 or 5 years, I guess. It was still being used, but it's now closed. And there is an old mosque. The shape of the mosque is different than the mosques nowadays. And I think it's it has a more human scale because it's not so high, and also compared to the other buildings in the village, it's really relatable, and it's also made of stone, as you can see. And another example to the use of stones, this is a rock, and they built the house on the top of this rock, right? Because the walls are also made of stone, so they can be combined easily, and there is no harm to build there. So they decided to use this and not to break this rock, and you build the house on the top of it. And this is my street. You can see that the garden walls are especially made of stone, and you can see that they are not covered with mortar, or they are not painted white, because there is no problem with the water, right? You don't have to protect these garden walls against rain, so they can get wet, and that's not a problem. So we leave these walls as they are. So mostly the houses, the buildings are painted white, but the garden walls are usually left stone. That you can see the stone surface. There are some old photos from 70s and 80s. You can again see what I was mentioning. The buildings are usually white and covered with mortar, and the stone walls, the garden walls are just, they put the stones on the top of each other and they built them. And they used to grow tobacco, and this is how they dried their leaves, but they are not doing this anymore because of governmental issues. And again, you can see the stone walls. Between them, they are drying their tobacco leaves. So this is Barbaros, the same village before 40 years. And they used to plant and grow grapes. They are still trying to turn back and grow grapes here and make wine, but not as much as they did before, because of, again, governmental issues, and because the government stopped to, and also the companies stopped to buy grapes from this region. But again, in Urla, after I came to Urla, the industry, the wine industry, again, is developing. They are opening some new wineries, let's say. So this is the old mosque's garden and the old coffee house. Again, all made of stone. You can see the pavements are made of stone, walls, etc., everything. And this is the existing village square. It looks very similar to today's pictures. Again, you can see the pavement was stone, but today they changed it with some concrete blocks. I don't know why they did this, but it does not look the same like the old times. Also, the village ovens where they cook their bread is made of stone, and it's really all the families, all the buildings here, they have one stone oven in their gardens. This is almost a must for this village, because everyone used to cook their own bread. Today, they still continue using these ovens, and there are some public ovens even that you can go and use. The water was a problem also before, and also today. There's a water problem, especially in summers, and they used to carry water with the donkeys in the old times, and they decided to build water storage elements like wells and cisterns. This is a photo that I've taken some years ago, and they have to collect water, especially for summers, because there is no water source here except the rain and some wells. There are over 400 wells. This is a really huge number, as you can see. They use these wells made of clay and also stones. And this is a water mill. They used to, they were producing some wheat and using this water mill in order to process it. This is again made of stone that they could find around. And I proposed a project to the municipality, which was called Barbaros Region of Ponds, and we have made I have organized a workshop with the students of İTE, Yaşar, and Economy universities. That was in 2014, almost 6 years ago, and we proposed a reorganization of the ponds that are around. There are more than 6 ponds that are really huge, and a walking path organization was proposed, and nothing much actually. We did not propose any building or any cafes or etc. Just the organization of the walking paths, bicycle paths, and a little bit of increasing the number of the trees, and that was it. So these were the slides about the village and the examples with the stone. Now I'm going to show you some examples that I built in Urla and surroundings. This is the house that I'm living in. Maybe some of you may have heard of this, and it has won some prizes, or it got exhibited in some places. So it consists of especially one special acoustically designed room, which is this one. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the bedroom on the left-hand side, yes, it is my bedroom, so it's acoustically covered, and the wall layers are done according to the principles of noise control. So this is the main reason why it is made of concrete. The concrete part is this bedroom. It pops out from the stone prism. So, and the other parts are made of stone, but I have to say that the construction method, the structural elements are reinforced concrete, and the stone walls are like used. They are used like infill walls. They are about again, the total of the walls are about 50 centimeters, but the 30 centimeters of the wall is made of stone. Then there are some heat insulation and acoustic insulation materials, and then the interior, you cannot see any trace of the stone on the interior part. It's all covered with bricks and again painted white. So this is where I'm talking now. This is the kitchen and the living room together. It's a really small house. It's about 80 square meters. And this is the part of the living room. And I'm going to show you the construction starting from the excavation and the reinforced concrete foundations, etc. Just let me skip these slides quickly. This is the photo from the beginning, and then we poured the lean concrete and then made the water insulation. And for the foundation, on the top of the water insulation, we poured the protection screed and put the reinforcing steel bars, which is almost the same shape with the whole building, actually. And then the continuous footing framework was done, and then the concrete foundation walls were finished. After that, the starter board, you can see the starter bars for columns and the water pipes coming out of the foundation. So this is the plywood framework for the concrete part of the building, the bedroom part. And after finishing the concrete framework, the acoustic and thermal insulation materials were put next to the concrete, and then a second layer of brick walls were completed in order to provide a real good noise control, let's say, to attenuate sound from outside. You have to use heavy walls and a good layering where you have two heavy layers and a gap plus porous insulating material like rock wool. You can see here we use rock wool here. So this is a good solution. And then I have two windows and two doors next to each other to be protected from the sound transmission, which will be possible through the windows. So I had to use two windows and two doors. So let's continue with the stone masonry. You can see the stones collected from the surface of the surroundings. This is not coming from an taş ocağından gelmiyor bu taşlar. Bunlar toplanıyor. So the stone masons, they collected the stones from surroundings, and the type of these stones are usually volcanic. Andesite and rhyolite are mainly the types of these stones. And also, as Ahmet Hoca said, they are putting some small rope in order to make sure that the wall is straight. So these are the three main stones which are collected from the surroundings with some workers. Rhyolite, andesite, and basalt. Basalt is mainly more dark in color, but rhyolite is pinkish, and andesite can be black to brown colored, right? So, as I said, these are magmatic and extrusive magmatic stones, basalt, andesite, and rhyolite. And but there are lots of different types of rocks which are magmatic, intrusive magmatic, which means the magma tries to come out to the surface, but cannot come right on the surface, but it stays a little bit in the ground. So these kind of formations of rock are called intrusive magmatic, and the ones that can come out from the ground, they are called extrusive magmatic rocks. And there are again sedimentary rocks and metamorphic rocks, which are really used very often in architecture as elements like wall elements or floor or any kind of architectural elements. You can use them in your kitchens, kitchen tops, right? And this is a figure that shows the extrusive and intrusive magmatic rock formations. So I have a series of articles in Architera. I'm writing that like for 2 years or more, I don't know. And one of these were about the stones and earth formations, the 7th one. If you are interested, you can go on and read that in Architera. I gave some examples from the surroundings, like also in Alaçatı, there is a special kind of stone that you have to use according to the regulations, right? So these are a little bit of more of an easier material to be handled compared to the stones that we are using here. So if I continue, I said that the walls are used like an infill wall between the reinforced concrete structural system, but also the columns and the beams are covered with the same material, but a little bit thinner compared to the part which is between the columns. Between the columns, the stone part is 30 centimeters, but in front of the column, it's about 10 centimeters, but the same stone and with the same technique again. So you can see here the hidden lintel. Usually you see the lintel on the top of the window in the vernacular architecture. Mostly they use wood or the stone itself as a complete part, as one lintel. But I decided to, for visual purposes, to cover the lintel with the same stone, so that we don't see any different material on the facades. So at the end, on the facade, the only thing that you see is the same type of stone and no other lintel element or no other element at all. And this is the final photo after completing the building, the stone part plus the bedroom, which is made of reinforced concrete. And the trees that I planted, you can see they are now covering all the facade, and I cannot take any photos anymore. So I'm glad that I took them before. So again, some photos from the construction. Let me skip these. This is again the final photo of the house. This is the northern part. On the north facade, there are no openings or windows because the prevailing wind coming from the north is really cold in winters here. So I wanted to make sure that I protected the house from the Poyraz coming from the, especially from north, but still also from the east. And this is my dog, one of my dogs, Çakır. So again, the facade which faces the sun in the mornings, the openings of the windows were left really thin, and I used some ribbon windows there. As you can see, in front of the column, the stones are very thin, like 10 centimeters. But the other part, you can see here, it's about 30 centimeters, right? So you can understand the section of the wall. Again, this is the final facade photograph. So let me continue with one other house. It's called Katse Evi. The same technique, but here you can see the concrete beams, right? On the top of the stone walls, there are some concrete beams which are visible from the outside, and the living units, I mean the bedrooms and living room part is in the two-story high part covered with stone, and the one-story part is made of concrete this time. I will just show you the photos because the techniques are really similar, the building techniques. Just the visuals are different, and because of the reinforced concrete beams which are visible from the exterior. And the stones are a little bit darker. They were darker in my house. Here we decided to use more whitish color stones, which were again collected from the surroundings. This is another perspective. So we were able to make large openings because the structural system is made of reinforced concrete. As Ahmet Hoca said, if it was just made with load-bearing stone walls, we had to make windows with smaller openings, of course, and it was not what we wanted. So the structural system was decided with this aim. And in the interior, you can see mostly the wooden floor plus concrete walls or brick walls painted white. interior and exterior materials are really changing because of the needs and the visuals that the owners wanted. And also I encouraged them to use these kind of concrete surfaces, which I really like. And the last example, again from the Urla and the same village, is Şehe Evi. Again, there are two stone parts which have terraced roofs, and on the in between them there is a pitched roof part which connects these two stone parts and have a higher ceiling because it's the main living area which connects the bedrooms in the stone parts. So this time the main stone was basalt, I don't know the English pronunciation, but again mixed with andesite and rhyolite, which are these three of these are extrusive magmatic stones. But basalt gives the surface a more darker color because it's black. So this is the combination, the masses come together, a prism with the pitch roof, which is white. I thought that the functions could be readable from outside, that at least the change of the functions should be readable. So this is the roof from the construction, photo from the construction. And this is the final photo while the users are also inside the kitchen, the main living room, and on the right and left hand side there are the stone walls of the bedrooms. So and some different perspectives, photos from outside. You see that there are different colored stones which are mostly black, and there are some pinkish stones which are probably rhyolite, but they are mainly working together, and they are the same type of formation of rocks. So because of the water insulation, the need of water insulation with this type of stones, we had to again do the wall layered, and the interior part of the wall and the exterior part of the stone wall was divided with some heat insulation plus water insulation, right? So I think that was it. I tried to keep the presentation short, but if you have any questions, please ask them.
Okay, thanks a lot, Onurcan, for this presentation and these interesting houses. I have seen some of them in Barbara's career. I think I saw one of them, and I didn't know it was from you, so it's nice to see. And it was really good to show these technical details on the construction for the students, so they really understand not only from the section and plan they have seen, but also from the picture how these stone buildings are made and how the stone is used. So thanks a lot for it.
You're welcome.
Please, if you have any question to Ahmed during the 10 minutes we have left, I'm sure to Ahmed, to Onurcan during the 10 minutes you have left, I'm sure he will be happy to answer. Any one of you? I'm sure you have questions. Don't be shy.
The ones that I've shown are the main difference is the construction method compared to Ahmet Hoca's because as also he mentioned, the regulations nowadays, they push us to build some other construction methods plus the stone walls, not load-bearing, but a steel construction or a reinforced concrete construction or a wooden construction maybe, plus the stone walls, because if you just make it with stone and make the walls load-bearing, so the openings cannot be as much as you want, as big as you want, and plus you need, again, you still need some concrete elements that you have to put on the top of the stone walls in order to protect them against the earthquake loads, as Ahmet Hoca again mentioned. So it's not possible to use these regulations and make a stone house just carrying itself. You always have to use the another material or concrete to combine them. So I decided to use the easy way and just first build the construction system, I mean the frame system, and then fill it with the stone around. These stones are not coming from another place, they are just collected from this village. So this is one part which makes it more sustainable, of course, and more economic. But still, the examples are really different compared to Ahmet Hoca's, of course. So maybe you have also noticed them. Sorunuz varsa Türkçe de sorabilirsiniz arkadaşlar.
Merhaba hocam. Sunumunuz için teşekkür ederim. Ses geliyorsa özür dilerim. Kusura bakmayın.
Geliyor. Tamam.
Soruyu sorup hemen kapatacağım. Hatıl kullandığınızı fark ettim sürekli. Ama hani bir önceki sunumda Ahmet Hoca'nın da anlattığı gibi aslında 9-12 metreye kadar çıkabilen sistemler bu taşıyıcı sistemler. Bu hatılı kullanmanızın sebebi var mı? Hani yani yeni deprem yönetmelikleriyle alakalı bir şey mi bu Ahmet Hoca'nın da bahsettiği?
Evet, demin de onu anlattım. Şöyle, Ahmet Hoca'nın da söylediği gibi, benim de anlattığım gibi demin, taşıyıcı sistemleri betonarme bunların. Yani benim kullandığım şey hatıl değil, doğrudan betonarme taşıyıcı sistem yaptım. Bütün bu gösterdiğim örneklerin hepsinde. Ve öncelikle kolon kiriş sistemi yapıldıktan sonra taş duvarlar araya 30 santimlik, yine kalın bir duvar, yani normal bir tuğla duvardan çok daha kalın. Dolgu, yani infill wall dediğim, kolonların arasına dolgu olarak yerleştirdiğimiz taşlar. Taş kendisini taşıyor ama üst katı veya yapıyı taşımıyor. Yapıyı taşıyan şey taşıyıcı betonarme sistem, benim yaptığım yapıların çoğunda öyle oluyor. Bunun da sebebi, taşla birlikte açıklık yapmak istediğiniz zaman pencerelerin boyutları belli boyutların üzerine çıkamıyor. Ki burada en çok istediğimiz şey dış mekanla iç mekanın ilişkisini kurabilmek için büyük pencereler, mümkün olduğunca büyük açıklıklar. Bunu da sağlayacak şey, taşla bunu sağlamak çok zor. İlla ki arada bir bağlantı olması lazım veya işte küçük küçük pencereleri yan yana koymanız lazım. Bu yüzden ya bir çelik taşıyıcı sistem ya bir ahşap taşıyıcı sistem veya işte bir betonarme sistem öncelikle yapmak deprem yönetmeliğinden dolayı daha kolay ve avantajlı oluyor. Ben öyle yapmayı tercih ettim. O gördüğünüz taşıyıcı sistem elemanları, onlar şeyler, betonarme, hatıl dediklerin işte kiriş, bayağı döşeme, asmolen döşeme gibi standart yapım tekniklerini bu yapılarda kullandık hep. Ama işte taş bu çevreden gelen bir taş. Bu çevreden kullandığımız bir taş olduğu için böyle bir sürdürülebilir bir yönü olduğunu, ekonomik açıdan da işte bir daha uygun fiyatlı olduğu için daha iyi bir katkısı oluyor yapıya bir şekilde.
Anladım. Bu sizin tercih ettiğiniz bir şey. Geniş açıklıklar istediğiniz için dolayısıyla kullanmanız gerekiyor ama hani taş evler yapılamaz gibi bir sınırlama yok. Yani taş evlerin
Tabii ki
hani...
yok. Taş ev tabii ki yapılabilir. Ama işte ihtiyaca göre değişecek şeyler oluyor. Mesela geniş açıklık geçmek istiyor olabilirsin. Duvar kalınlığını çok fazla yapmak istemiyor olabilirsin atıyorum. Gerçi bizim bu evlerde yine neredeyse 50 santime yakın bir duvar kalınlığı var. Arkasındaki izolasyon ve işte ikinci bir duvar katmanı ile birlikte. Ama bunlar çok daha ince yapılabilir yani. Betonarme veya çelik taşıyıcılı bir sistem yaparsanız duvarınızı 15-20 santimde de tutabiliyorsunuz zaten. Yaklaşık 20 santim bir dış duvar kalınlığı projelerde yeterli oluyor. Tabii ki ses açısından çok iyi bir şey değil çok ince duvar yapmak. Ama bu dediğim gibi tercihle alakalı biraz da işte müşterilerin istekleriyle de ilişkili olan konular. Benim de bireysel olarak tercih ettiğim bir şey yani.
Anladım. Teşekkür ederim sununuz için.
Ben teşekkür ederim.
So thanks a lot to all for this presentation. And now we will then finish the session. Thanks a lot for participating, and I hope we will have the possibility to make again such presentations that are really helping students to discover this beautiful material that is stone and that is not used enough in nowadays architecture in Turkey. So I wish all of you a good day and see you another time.
Thank you, Matthew. See you all.
Evet, evet.